The restaurant was quiet in that soft, late-morning way, sunlight spilling gently through tall windows, silverware resting untouched, conversations barely rising above whispers, when the little girl's voice suddenly cut through the calm like a beam of pure truth. Her words froze the room. The man sitting at the table looked up, startled, as if the world had just shifted beneath him. The woman across from him widened her eyes, her breath catching mid-sentence, and the child, with her small hand resting trustingly on the man's arm, repeated her question with innocent conviction shining in her eyes. "Are you the hero Mom talks about?" For a moment, everything around them paused, the murmuring customers, the clinking plates, even the soft music filtering from the speakers. It felt as if the universe itself held its breath, waiting for what would happen next. If you believe in kindness, forgiveness, and second chances, make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Your support helps these stories reach more hearts. The man, whose name was Ethan Miller, hadn't heard anyone call him anything close to a hero in years. In fact, he had carefully built a life around the idea that maybe he wasn't meant to be one. Life had once been simple, small-town rhythms, predictable routines, and dreams he had been brave enough to chase. But fate had a way of unraveling even the strongest plans. Years ago, Ethan had been a firefighter in Colorado, driven by the desire to help people, to make a difference. He had loved his work with a passion that gave him purpose. But everything changed in a single moment, when a warehouse fire collapsed unexpectedly, trapping his partner beneath burning debris. Ethan had survived with injuries, scars, and a guilt that ran deeper than any flame, but his partner, his closest friend, had not. It didn't matter that everyone said the collapse wasn't his fault. To Ethan, it always felt like it was. Since then, he had drifted quietly from place to place, carrying his grief like an invisible weight strapped to him. He now worked in a quieter field, home inspections, mundane and risk-free. No more sirens, no more lives in his hands, no more chances to fail. Sitting across from him that morning was Lily Anderson, a woman he had met just a month earlier. Their connection had started by accident, literally, when he had helped her pick up spilled groceries in a parking lot. She had thanked him with a smile that felt impossibly warm for someone he had never met. Over the weeks that followed, meeting for coffee became natural, easy, comforting. Lily was bright but grounded, gentle yet strong. She was a single mother who had built a life for herself and her daughter after leaving a painful marriage. She carried her own kind of quiet resilience. There had always been something different about her presence, something that made Ethan feel like breathing came a little easier when she was near. But he had never imagined that she spoke about him at home, much less with words like hero. Her daughter, a small girl with strawberry blonde hair named Emma, had only met Ethan twice. And yet, children had a way of seeing the truth adults hid behind layers of fear and hesitation. When she approached the table that day, returning from washing her hands, she had walked straight up to Ethan, full of innocent bravery. She looked at him as if she knew something he didn't, and in many ways, she did. Lily's face turned pink as she tried to gather her words. She hadn't planned for her daughter to say something so striking out loud. She had told Emma stories about a man who helped her pick up groceries, who listened to her talk about her worries, who checked her house for faulty wiring without charging her a dime, who made her laugh in a way she hadn't in years. She hadn't used the word hero in the dramatic sense. She had used it to describe kindness, the kind that was rare, the kind that had slowly restored her faith in good people. Ethan looked at Emma, unsure how to respond, unsure how to even breathe. He could feel the restaurant's attention turning toward their table. But more than that, he could feel layers of himself he had buried long ago shifting suddenly, painfully, unexpectedly. He wanted to say no. He wanted to tell her she was mistaken. He wanted to tell her she deserved someone better to look up to. But the child looked at him with such unwavering trust that the word no dissolved in his throat before it could escape. Emma climbed into the empty chair beside him, acting as if the silence didn't exist. She reached for her cup of water with both hands, her fingers barely managing to hold it steady. And in that simple, innocent moment, something inside Ethan began to crack open. The guilt he had carried like a second skin stirred, But so did something else, an ache he had suppressed for years, the ache of wanting to matter again. As the lunch went on, the tension softened. Emma told Ethan about her school project involving dinosaurs, about how she wanted to become a veterinarian, and about how her mother said Ethan was a good man who helped people even when he didn't have to. Lily tried to gently steer Emma away from overly revealing conversations, embarrassed yet unable to deny the warmth in her chest. Ethan, meanwhile, found himself smiling genuinely for the first time in a long time. But deep inside, another emotion battled with the warmth. Fear. Fear that if Lily knew about his past, she would see him differently. Fear that Emma would stop seeing him as someone worth admiring. Fear that he would fail again. That night, when he returned home, Ethan lay awake for hours. The ceiling stared back at him as if urging him to confront everything he had been avoiding. Emma's question echoed through his mind like a bell that refused to quiet. "Are you the hero Mom talks about?" It wasn't just a question, it was a challenge, a mirror, a plea. Over the next few days, Ethan became acutely aware of how much he cared for Lily, and how deeply Emma's innocent trust affected him. He found himself wanting to earn that trust, not through grand gestures, but through consistency, honesty, and presence. Emma had a way of seeing something in him he had long forgotten existed. It was as if she believed in a version of him he no longer recognized, and somehow he wanted to meet that version again. One afternoon, as autumn leaves swirled around the quiet streets of their town, Ethan visited Lily's home to check a strange flicker in her hallway lights. He didn't charge, of course. He came because he wanted to help. While he worked, Emma sat nearby coloring, humming softly. Lily made tea in the kitchen, sneaking glances at him with an expression he couldn't quite decipher. Part gratitude, part admiration, part something deeper. When he finished, Emma looked up and told him she had drawn something for him. She handed him a sheet of paper with stick figures, 3 of them, holding hands. Underneath, in large, uneven letters, she had written, "My best friend Ethan." The drawing nearly broke him. Not because of its innocence, but because of its undeserved faith. Ethan excused himself and stepped outside to breathe. The cold air didn't help. The memories flooded in like rising water. His partner's face, the fire, the collapse, the funeral, the words "you did everything you could." He had never believed them, not fully. Maybe not at all. Lily followed him outside, worry in her eyes. She asked gently if he was okay, and for the first time in years, Ethan told someone the entire truth. He told her about the fire, the guilt, the nightmares, the weight he had carried alone. He expected her to step back, to pull away, to see him the way he saw himself, broken, responsible, undeserving. But she didn't. Instead, she wiped away her own tears before touching his arm softly. She told him that heroes weren't perfect people who never made mistakes. They were people who kept caring even after they broke. People who still showed up for others even when they couldn't show up for themselves. People who saved lives without realizing it. Her words didn't erase his pain, but they shifted something inside him. A seed of forgiveness he had never allowed himself to consider finally touched soil. Days passed, and Ethan began to spend more time with Lily and Emma. They went to parks, grocery stores, quiet Sunday breakfasts. He found small pieces of normal life stitching him back together. Emma remained his biggest cheerleader, always ready with a hug, a drawing, or a story. One afternoon, after helping her with homework, she looked at him with the same sincerity she had shown in the restaurant and said she wished he could stay in their lives forever. The simplicity of that word, forever, hit Ethan in a way he didn't expect. He had been living as if he didn't deserve forever, but maybe, just maybe he did. The moment that truly changed everything came unexpectedly. One evening, as the first signs of winter brushed the air, Lily's house filled with smoke from a short-circuited old heater. The alarms blared. Fear surged. Ethan was the first to react. He moved with instinctive precision he thought he had lost, guiding Lily and Emma outside, making sure the house was safe enough to step back in briefly to shut off the faulty breaker before the fire spread. He didn't hesitate, and for the first time since the warehouse fire, he didn't freeze. Lily hugged him tightly afterward, trembling but safe. Emma clung to him, whispering that he really was her hero. And this time, this one unexpected, powerful moment, Ethan believed it. Not because he had saved a life in dramatic fashion, but because he had simply shown up, because he had chosen not to let fear win. From that day on, Ethan stopped running from his past. He sought help, therapy, honest conversations. He started rebuilding with intention rather than avoidance. And through it all, Lily and Emma were by his side, not because they needed a hero, but because they saw the hero he already was. Months passed, and their bond deepened. Lily's eyes softened whenever he entered her room. Emma never stopped introducing him proudly to others as her best grown-up friend. And Ethan began to realize something he had long denied himself. He was allowed to love and be loved. He was allowed to heal. He was allowed to move forward. If this story touched your heart, please like, comment, share, and subscribe. Your support helps us bring more emotional stories to life. Before you go, comment below, do you believe anyone can become a hero in someone's life? And as Ethan, Lily, and little Emma stood together on a quiet winter afternoon, hands intertwined, hearts steady, it was clear that sometimes the hero we are searching for is simply the version of ourselves we are finally brave enough to become.